We return to another episode of Game Decon. In this episode, we're continuing coverage of our analysis of the video game Fallout New Vegas as created by Obsidian Entertainment and Bethesda Softworks. I am skipping much of the normal preamble this time since I'm already 3 episodes in, and viewers will be aware of the structure of previous videos. However, if you are a new viewer joining in, I'll have the link of the first video to this series linked in the description. There will be spoilers for Fallout New Vegas ahead. My courier leads his companions, Boone and Eddie, north from the town of Novak in pursuit of the men who left him for dead. Just beyond the Gibson scrapyard, a Legion assassination squad ambushes my team. I will say that these squads are quite dangerous and exceptionally well armed and armored compared to other Legion units we have encountered in the game. I can reasonably assume that this squad has been sent to kill the courier for his rescue of the Nipton survivors in the last video, which shows that the Legion believes in retribution for acts done against it. I partly question why Caesar's Legion does not employ more of these advanced soldiers in the battlefield, although we have not seen much of how the Legion operates in combat engagements so far. However, if the Legion uses these squads to operate behind enemy lines, which we can see them doing here, then they hold a strategic and effective edge against NCR forces. I highly doubt a squad of NCR regular soldiers could face down these Legion units, although NCR Rangers may be an equivalent match. I do want to talk about the logistics and rationale behind sending an elite assassination squad to hunt down one courier, but I'll save that topic for later. Our courier and his companions arrive at a large solar power station called HELIOS One. We see the NCR flag flying near the entrance, and a squad of soldiers stands guard as we approach.
This is a restricted area. State your business. Your being here is a start, soldier. We aren't exactly overflowing with troopers here. But if you really want to help us, talk to the idiot with sunglasses in the back of the plant building. He's been trying to get this place running for months and hasn't made any forward progress. There should, but we're not getting much power out of it, so none of our enemies have big interest in it either. Not like Hoover Dam, anyway. We had a real fighting force here just long enough to take it from the Brotherhood of Steel. Then they got sent east to the dam like everybody else. Caesar's Legion sends skirmishers every so often, prodding for weaknesses mostly. The reality is, if they really wanted it, we'd all be dead. Damned if I know. Put up a hell of a fight, though. We had them outnumbered, I don't know, 20-1 maybe? They held out as long as they could, lost most of their force before they retreated. Gave us a little parting gift, too. They had some of the plant running, but they shut it all down. Enabled an old security system, too, to keep us away from the controls. Jerk-offs. I ask myself the same question all the time. But energy is hard to come by around here. Gives you more control over this area than troops ever could. Hell, if we lose the dam to the Legion, this little plant may be our last stand. Later.
I have a few problems with Haggerty's characterization I'll analyze later. Heading through the winding maze that is the HELIOS One power plant, we eventually find the idiot with sunglasses Lieutenant Haggerty spoke of.
Who the hell are you? They bring you in to replace me? They're replacing me, aren't they? Ah, shit! Shit, man! I need this. Gotta pay the bills. And I'm addicted to a lot of different kinds of chems. I mean a lot. Aw, man. How am I supposed to buy chems now? Fine, here. What else? I'm in charge. This whole operation depends on me. No fantastic, no power. Got the whole NCR suckling my teats, and it feels so good. Well, see, we're getting power because the guy running this place is fantastic. But the mirrors outside aren't aimed right, so we're running at 1% efficiency, and I guess that just isn't good enough for some assholes. Trouble is, most of the controls for this place aren't here. They're in the tower. And that place has some crazy pre-war security system that the dumb shit NCR set off when they took over. Killed 2 guys. Now they won't go near it. They want me to make an omelet, but I can't break any of their eggs. Know what I'm saying? Worried? Do I look worried to you? I've got this under control, baby. No one else can do what I do here. There's these 2 terminals outside. They control the mirrors. I tried fooling with them, but didn't get very far. You'd have to get them to talk to the mainframe up in the tower, then do the rest from up there. I'm guessing, but it sounds good, right? Hey, you're not thinking about going up there, are you? Well, hey, if you find yourself up at the mainframe, do yourself a favor and make sure you send the power to the right place. It needs to go to the Strip and McCarran. Because I get paid, that's why. Per kilowatt hour. Whatever the hell that is. That's where the NCR wants the power, so that's where I want it. But you know, you do that, maybe I put in a good word for you with them. Fantastic's little helper. There's a reputation you can hang your hat on. Fuck, man. Everything. I push buttons, I turn dials, I read numbers. Sometimes I make up little stories in my head about what the numbers mean. Like one time I imagined they were a code to get into a vault full of naked women. Man, how cool would that be? No, man. I know exactly what I'm doing. I just don't know what effect it's going to have. Over there controls power in this building. That station has readouts on the computer network. That big knob there makes a crazy noise. Sparks come out of that slot if you put stuff in it. And I'm learning more every day. It was easy, man. They were going door to door asking if anyone knew any scientists. I said look no further. They asked me if I knew anything about power plants. I said as much as anyone I had ever met. They asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics. They said welcome aboard. Here, you want this. It's the password to one of the terminals outside. Found it written on one of the stalls in the bathroom.
Following that conversation, the courier meets Ignacio Rivas, another scientist.
It's unusual to see a new face here. Are you a soldier or a scientist? I see. Then you must have some special business here, for them to have let you through. Interesting. Forgive me for prying, but I'm curious. Are you with a particular group? You're right, I'm sorry. That imbecile in the next room has me on edge. I used to be more fun. I'm still passionate about my work, though. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'm in the Followers of the Apocalypse. How about you? That's reassuring. Although many who've made that claim over the years have had less than pure intentions. But if it's really as you say, then take my advice. This installation carries with it dangers that no one here has realized. Take care of what you do here, and who you listen to. Some things are best left buried with the old world. I don't entirely know. Our records on the company that built this place suggest that their dealings were not only in energy, but also in weapons. And I've seen equipment here marked with symbols used by the pre-war military. Targeting computers, shock sensors. A code word comes up repeatedly in the papers I've looked through here. Archimedes. Yes. And the technology they have in this facility is like nothing I've seen. Some of it reminds me of Enclave equipment, but more advanced. A weapon based upon it would be catastrophic, no matter who claimed it. It's no wonder the Brotherhood wouldn't give it up. They weren't here for me to ask, but I doubt they were here for electricity. When the NCR first came here, it was under Brotherhood control. They usually steered clear of one another, but something here changed their minds. The Brotherhood's interest in pre-war technology has always been in weapons. It's likely they were trying to reclaim Archimedes when the NCR arrived. Then I would say do it. As long as the power of this plant is committed to the regional grid and not to a weapon, we are safe. If you're the one to restore output, then you can route the power where you choose, and they'll never be the wiser. I can't get you past the security in the tower, but I can be of some help. I've discovered a password for one of the mirror control terminals outside. You'll need it. Oh, the NCR has their own designs for it, no doubt, but resist the urge to send it only to the thriving communities. The need for power is great everywhere. Distributing it evenly is the most rational and humane choice. I'm a man of letters. I'd be torn to pieces by the security system they have in that tower. I'd never reach the mainframe. But eventually, the NCR will. Or if not them, Caesar's Legion. They will use this place for war. Because the possibility exists you might do anything else, you're the only choice I have. Not yet. By some miracle, they've hired an imbecile to try and decipher the systems here. He spent months working at one console trying to get the solar reflectors to track the sun. What he doesn't know is that the only thing the console controls is the plant's intercom system. I tried to tell him, but he insisted that the largest console had to be the most important. Still, it's only a matter of time. Goodbye.
Let's talk about these two and the implications with the NCR. The best word I can use to describe Fantastic is shyster, a word with a fabulous etymology I recommend you look up. As a shyster, Fantastic is disreputable and unethical in his professional and, it seems, personal life. The man is inept at his job, should not be in a leadership position, and has a false sense of superior ego. In other words, Fantastic is the manager of your local superstore. Fantastic also has his character flaws, although I will talk about his reliability as a character due to his addiction to chems. However, the fact remains that the NCR did hire him, despite how unbelievable his characterization and position are. While it is common knowledge that corporations and other entities do hire incompetent personnel at times, my main source of disbelief comes from this information.
It was easy, man. They were going door to door asking if anyone knew any scientists. I said look no further. They asked me if I knew anything about power plants. I said as much as anyone I had ever met. They asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics. They said welcome aboard.
It is entirely possible Fantastic is lying or using hyperbole to explain how he was hired by the NCR. But if he isn't, then the traits the NCR gains are ludicrous. The idea that a military or governmental group would recruit scientists by literally going door to door is incomprehensible. The equivalent would be a soldier walking up to your door and asking if you know how to repair and operate a nearby power station. The leap in logic just falls flat. While we could write off this insanity as the delusions of a chem addict and the usual strangeness of the Fallout universe, we then come to Ignacio Rivas. Ignacio is a much more believable character and is the complete antithesis of Fantastic. Ignacio is competent, well-spoken, is passionate about his work, and understands not only the power plant itself, but how different factions view and want to use the plant. That being said, Ignacio is also a member of the Followers of the Apocalypse, and what he asks the courier to do at HELIOS One directly contradicts what the NCR wants to be done at the power plant. Ignacio actively works against the NCR's interests, yet is one of the two scientists responsible for the plant becoming operational. While I can explain why we cannot trust everything Fantastic says to be true, I cannot explain why the NCR hired Ignacio. While it is entirely possible and highly likely the NCR is unaware of Ignacio's true allegiances, his presence at Helios shows that the organization does not properly check the backgrounds or vet the experts it brings into sensitive installations. Although, to be fair, we will see the same attribute be repeated in a couple of episodes. Not to spoil too much about what's going on at other NCR facilities, but it could be just as likely that Ignacio is a Legion saboteur. The point is that the head scientist at HELIOS One is completely incapable, while the subordinate scientist is capable, but also has conflicting loyalties he has effectively hidden from the NCR. In order to rationalize the presence of both Fantastic and Ignacio at HELIOS One, we must state that the NCR is incompetent at hiring and vetting capable and loyal scientists. The NCR also has poor recruitment practices for qualified experts. I do not want to analyze these traits for the NCR quite yet. As I stated, we will expand on these problematic traits in a couple of episodes when the courier visits Camp McCarran, the main military base in the Mojave. At Game Decon, I also like to show how problematic traits can be improved, but I will save this spiel for the character analyses and evaluations. Stepping outside, the courier enters a fenced-in area containing tents and a forest of solar power panels surrounding a uniquely shaped tower. NCR soldiers are stationed in this area, although most seem to be lounging or patrolling. As my courier pilfers broken solar panels from the yard, I will point out that positioning soldiers among the solar arrays is either supremely foolish or a tactical step. On one hand, the solar arrays are the main resource HELIOS One has. Without them, no power can be generated by the plant and the Archimedes weapon cannot be activated. Trying to defend the plant against Caesar's Legion from this fenced-in yard would be difficult and increase the likelihood of damaging or destroying the plant's resourcefulness. On the other hand, positioning the soldiers among and near the solar panels means an attacking force risks damaging or destroying the arrays, thereby ruining the reason why the Legion might attack in the first place. As a result, the Legion or other factions may be dissuaded from attacking Helios One. While this placement of soldiers lowers the likelihood of being attacked, it also means that any attack will likely leave the power plant inoperable for any faction afterward. At the first computer terminal outside, the courier encounters bear traps, tripwires, and mines. I am honestly unsure why or how these traps were placed here. Is this part of the security system the Brotherhood of Steel created? I do not find this claim likely, so perhaps the traps were placed by the NCR to safeguard the terminal. However, the traps also prohibit the NCR from using the terminal. Plus, the entire yard is already patrolled by soldiers. Seems a bit overkill. The terminal has information about testing of the Archimedes weapon. The memorandum is from the previous owners of Helios One, Poseidonet, giving instructions to all personnel for a test run of Archimedes. The text states that the test will occur on February 16th at 2 in the afternoon. No employees are supposed to be outdoors during the test, and the memo reminds employees that Poseidonet will not be responsible for injuries or deaths, since all employees signed death and dismemberment waivers before being hired. The text also states that protective eyewear is mandatory for observers on the tower deck. A second message tells of a brigadier general named Scott Lowe of the United States Army visiting Helios One. Lowe will be taking command of the Archimedes testing and any other firings. The text instructs employees to be well-groomed and hygienic while at work, although they will still be treated as a civilian force rather than military. Also, we have some clarity in this message regarding who owns Helios One. The company's actual name is Poseidon, and we can infer that Poseidonet is likely the company's technology brand. While I am aware of what other faction controlled the Poseidon Company, since we do not have that information so far in Fallout New Vegas, the only thing I will point out is that Poseidon constructed many of the gas stations we find in the Mojave, which reveals that the company held an array of different resources of power, including solar and petroleum. We also see that Poseidon viewed its employees' lives as potentially expendable.
If the Legion breaks through our defenses, I got one bullet I'm saving just for me.
Wow. That's a rather dismal mindset to have. After Gabe resets the first mainframe, I have him head to the other fenced-in terminal area. 3 hostile NCR guard dogs attack when the courier enters, which again leads me to believe the traps at the first terminal were also set by the NCR. Once more, I am confounded as to why the NCR has placed hazardous obstacles around the terminals they themselves would need access to. The courier resets the second mainframe before heading into the tower. I really have very little to say about what the courier finds in the tower area. Automated turrets and a few different types of robots attack the courier and his team upon entering the tower, including Robobrains, Mr. Gutsies, and Protectrons. This level of security is more on par with what the Brotherhood of Steel might field and be capable of activating, so I think we can safely assume the aforementioned security system is located in this tower. Entering the control room, the courier activates a droid called Python. It quickly repairs some electrical wiring so that we can access the main server. The attached terminal explains more about the Archimedes weapon, which the writer refers to as Archimedes 2. The text shows that field trials were being conducted with a handheld rangefinder. Apparently, the engineers were attempting to use the weapon beyond the range of Helios One, though we have not come across said rangefinder while exploring the facility. I choose to have Gabe power the full region rather than the NCR necessities or any other option, completing the task Ignacio Rivas set the courier on. While this option may result in brownouts for the region, sending power to the whole Mojave would not result in a negative consequence. Electricity is still electricity, whether it is powering only a small portion of the Mojave or the entire region, and my courier has no reason to deny power to others just so the NCR doesn't have brownouts. My courier also has no reason to activate Archimedes 2, since doing so would kill the NCR soldiers at Helios, and the faction has given him no reason to become hostile toward it. To be fair, we have also known since the beginning of the game that the main source of power for the Mojave currently is Hoover Dam. The electricity generated by the dam has been powering nearly every settlement in the Mojave for years now, and we know from Fantastic that Helios One is barely outputting any electricity when the courier first arrives. Sending Helios' electricity to the region only adds to the already abundant electrical resources from Hoover Dam. Gabe flips a switch on the tower's observation deck, realigning the solar arrays and making Helios One fully operational. He returns to Ignacio to report back.
What can I help you with? I saw that on the monitors here, and you sent it to everyone. Very admirable. Now that the NCR is more or less what they want, hopefully their curiosity about the plan is satisfied, and they'll dig no deeper. The followers will be grateful. Here, take these as a parting gift. I hope you'll find them useful. Keeping watch mostly. Trying to make sure the dangers of this plan are minimized.
Surprisingly, if the courier attempts to talk to Fantastic or Lieutenant Haggerty after making Helios operational, neither has anything significant to say. Before we move on from Helios One, I will state that the site's mission, That Lucky Old Sun, has the weakest writing I have come across so far in my coverage of Fallout New Vegas. I want to take some time to explain the problems with the quest, and especially in how the quest characters contribute to those issues. I have already stated that the presence of both Fantastic and Ignacio Rivas at the power plant pose characterization issues for the NCR itself. The recruitment methods the NCR uses are laughably unbelievable. However, I must also consider the ease with which the courier himself gained access to the facility. He told Haggerty he was with the NCR, and the lieutenant let him through without verifying his claims. It's also clear that both Fantastic and Rivas are working at Helios under false pretenses, showing that the NCR does not understand the motivations of both men. We already know the NCR is spread too thin across the Mojave, and it is entirely plausible that their ability to verify the identity of people and perform background checks is not high on their list of priorities or capabilities. Even so, the idea that the NCR allows unaffiliated men like the Courier, Fantastic, and Rivas into a secure power plant is not believable. It is one thing to say the NCR is spread thin and does not have enough manpower or resources. It is another to say the NCR is incompetent to the point of allowing blatant security threats to infiltrate their facilities and work against their own goals. Again, this issue repeats later at Camp McCarran. Then there is the matter of Archimedes 2, the supposedly secret weapon housed at Helios One. Ignacio Rivas tells the courier he believes the NCR is ignorant of the power plant's weapon, but we also know the NCR sabotaged and guarded the areas around terminals in the Solar Array Yard, which contain specific details about the Archimedes project. I do not believe for a second that the NCR did not access either of those terminals prior to booby-trapping or placing guard dogs around them. Rivas also states he intends to stay on at Helios to ensure the NCR does not look too deeply into the facility, but considering the NCR now has full access to both terminals outside and the terminal in the tower, I'm not sure how the NCR could possibly miss that information lying before them. It's conceivable Ignacio could wipe the information from all three terminals, but if that were the case, why wouldn't he have asked the courier to do just that as he went about the facility? The NCR's treatment of the terminals is illogical. I cannot think of why they would place hazardous traps and feral dogs around the outside terminals, which the NCR would need to access if they intended to make Helios One operational. That would be like the owner of a restaurant placing rabid dogs, landmines, bear traps, and rigged shotguns in his establishment before telling his employees to get to work. The NCR absolutely should know about the Archimedes weapon, but their own ineptitude in creating unnecessary hurdles for themselves allows that knowledge to slip from their grasp. And once again, we are faced with the notion that the NCR is fumbling due to an unbelievable level of ineptitude and self-sabotaging decisions. Lastly, there is Helios One itself. The structure is a solar power plant that is barely operational. Thanks to the courier's actions, the plant becomes fully functioning, though sending power to the entire region will result in brownouts. As I stated before, though, just down the road is Hoover Dam, a massive facility from the old world that is the main source of electricity for the entire Mojave. In fact, as we already know, one of the primary conflicts in this game revolves around who will control Hoover Dam. It is a resource that is vital to controlling the Mojave wasteland. Why would sending energy from Helios One to the whole region cause brownouts when Hoover Dam is fully operational? That is a legitimate question. I am not an expert in how electricity is generated or distributed, but I find it hard to believe that distributing the electricity from Helios would result in a negative issue when Hoover Dam is fully functional and already distributing power across the Mojave. And yes, while I am aware that most power lines across the region are not connected, as we have seen their lines dangling and untethered, I do not care to spend much time discussing how power distribution works in the Mojave. I'll just call it out for breaking a law of science like I should, then move on with my day. The mission, That Lucky Old Sun, does cause some characterization issues for the NCR that are nonsensical, and the negative ramifications of sending power to the entire Mojave are easily dismissed. The last critique I want to make about Helios One is how inconsequential the plant turns out to be. The courier's actions there, even if he activates Archimedes, is not a game changer for the region. Adding or removing power from this plant does not affect the Mojave in any significant way. In fact, unlike many of the other places the courier has been to so far in this playthrough, I feel like skipping Helios 1 would not leave a lasting impact on the game or the world in which it is set. Does every mission need to have lasting, important consequences on the story, setting, or characters? No. Even Lieutenant Haggerty mentions that the NCR has withdrawn many resources from the plant because they do not deem it useful. However, given the lore that we know, that the NCR fought a decisive battle against the Brotherhood of Steel here, the Brotherhood had many casualties in its defense, and the Brotherhood took the time to sabotage the facility, shows that at least two factions held Helios One with such importance that it was worth dying for. And with the revelation of the Archimedes 2 weapon, it makes sense why the power plant is actually valuable. The weapon could even be a game changer for the NCR's war against Caesar's Legion, and any faction that controls it can become a major threat to its enemies. To solve the many issues plaguing the That Lucky Old Sun mission, I would recommend having the mission revolve around Archimedes 2 rather than fixing a barely functioning power station. Instead of making the NCR ignorant of the weapon and incompetent of its handling of the facility, make them aware of its existence, and their efforts there are an attempt to gain leverage over the Legion. We know their war against the Legion is going poorly, so Archimedes could be their saving grace. The only reason Lieutenant Haggerty allows the courier access to Helios 1 is to help fix Fantastic's mess. With this new premise, though, Fantastic's problematic character is no longer needed, since the NCR would need actual and established scientists working on making the Archimedes project a reality. Instead of fixing the alignment of solar arrays and poking a computer a few times in a forced moral dilemma with no real consequences, the courier may have to seek out other technologies to help make Archimedes operational, though the creation of a superweapon does itself pose a host of more impactful moral questions. I do enjoy the character of Ignacio Rivas, but perhaps he could be an NCR scientist secretly recruited by the followers of the Apocalypse to stop the creation of the superweapon. These are just a few quick suggestions, and I am not aiming on doing a rewrite of the Helios 1 mission. My main point is that the facility, its hidden weapon, and the characters involved are all missed opportunities. As the quest That Lucky Old Sun stands, the mission holds little value in the grand scheme of the narrative. Completing it has no real consequences, and its secret weapon does not become an asset or loss for any faction, despite how important the factions are in Fallout New Vegas. Now, on to character evaluations. We're going to start with our NCR people. I did include Fantastic among NCR, even though he really isn't, but that was just for not having to click between too many tabs. So Lieutenant Haggerty, we'll start with her. She's the NCR soldier that we find right outside Helios 1 and allows us entry. She does not verify the courier's standing with the NCR, doesn't like the sunglasses guy. She is realistic, may have been present during the NCR Brotherhood of Steel battle at Helios 1, doesn't like the Brotherhood of Steel. She questions her orders. She understands that energy is being a resource. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to mean by that. I think she just understands that the electricity is a resource. Energy equals control in the Mojave. And then she also claims that the Brotherhood has still activated the security system. Cool. I have some major problems with Lieutenant Haggerty, and her traits really do not align with her actions either. I do have a problem that she does not do anything to verify who the courier is or that he's even aligned with the NCR. She's supposed to be realistic, and that seems like a very unrealistic thing to do. She does question her orders as well, so I am not entirely sure what's going on with her. I gave her a 3 total, and gave her the bare minimum amount of things or points that I could possibly give her. And Fantastic is right there along there with her. He wears sunglasses. He's worried about being replaced. He's a chem addict. He is defrauding the NCR. He is in a leadership position. As I already said in the video, he's a shyster. He claims the NCR set off the security system, and I'll talk about why I highlighted those 2 claims in yellow in a moment. He's egotistical. He blames everyone else for his misfortune. He spews bullshit. He will pay the courier with his good word, even though that never happens. He's completely unqualified and inept. He has colorful language, and I have a question that he is reliable because of his chem addiction, basically. So let's start with why I highlighted this stuff in yellow. So this is a contradiction between characters and their information, and to me, it's not really so much a problem because we don't really think that Fantastic is that reliable of a character in what information he can give. We know he's a chematic. We know he's not there at Helios One for any good reason, and he is very much so a shyster. Um, we have very little reason to trust that he knows what he's talking about. Um, Even though I have my problems with Lieutenant Haggerty, I believe her more so than I believe Fantastic in this matter. As far as Fantastic himself, why I gave him such a dismal score is mainly because we know that he's not reliable, and everyone on that base in Helios One should know that he is not a reliable person. Based on what we know, he seems quite obvious that he is not trustworthy. He is not capable of what he's doing, and it's shocking that he even is still there, regardless of how he even got there. Um, he has not made any significant progress at Helios One since he got there. Um, I don't know how he's leading anything at Helios One, honestly, and really his character itself is just not believable. Um, and that's why I gave him as a very bad score as well. I don't believe that this character is realistic and that he should be where he is. Moving on along to Ignacio Rivas. I didn't have any problems at all with Ignacio. I gave him the highest score possible. I felt he was very believable and he has quite a few traits. Um, he's our third character as well, who's a man who likes men. Again, not a problem, but I mean, cool. I mean, just whatever. He likes men, whatever. He seems rather monotone. He dislikes Fantastic. He's passionate about his work. He's very cautious and questioning, even though I didn't spell that right. Um, I'll fix that. There we go. He's good. He has a good understanding of history, as many of the followers of the Apocalypse are, and he is a member of them. He also seems familiar with other factions, which include the Enclave, the Brotherhood of Steel. Um, he is not necessarily working with the NCR, even though he is working for them currently. He employs subterfuge to even be able to work at Helios. He is a non-combatant. He believes the NCR or Legion will use Helios for war and tries to help Fantastic at one point, but then lets him fumble. Um, I spent a considerable amount of the video prior to this criticizing how Ignacio is even able to be at Helios. Um, and while that is problematic in and of itself, that's more the NCR's problem than Ignacio. Ignacio, his character is fine. I don't have any problems with any of his traits, and any of his actions do follow through from his traits. So it's fine. And him being there is the issue for the NCR, as I'll talk about in just a little bit, not necessarily for him himself as a character, which again, I scored him as high as possible. Um, Moving on along, let's go to the factions. I'm gonna go back over here to the NCR, start from left to right. So the NCR, we come across some problems that will probably, again, I'm not going to qualify or evaluate any of these factions right now. I'll say that for the end of the game analysis. But basically, I said that the NCR is inept at hiring and vetting competent or loyal scientists, which we already talked about. They divert resources from Helios to other areas, whatever. They have poor recruitment practices for qualified experts, and then soldiers fear capture by the Legion. That last one we figured out whenever the one soldier said she was willing to unalive herself, basically, um, in the event that the NCR was overrun by the Legion at Helios. Um, so yeah, Caesar's Legion. They are vengeful. They deploy dangerous assassination squads and have interesting priorities. Um, to address the elephant in the room, as far as the logistics of Caesar sending out, or not necessarily Caesar, but even one of his subordinates, sending out an extremely well-armed assassination squad after one courier. Um, I feel like he could probably put, or the Legion could put these extremely well-trained squads to much better use than hunting down one courier. They could probably have already overrun the NCR if they had all their squads that can possibly come after the courier. They could probably have overrun the NCR in the Mojave by now. Um, I'm not joking about that. I do really think that that is quite a possibility with how well armed and armored they are. Um, and again, that's why I say they have interesting priorities. It's just like, why would you bother? I mean, yes, I killed or my courier, not I, but the courier killed one legionnaire whenever they attacked the oh gosh, that traveling caravan outside of Wolfhorn Ranch. And then I also had the courier rescue two uh, of the survivors from Nipton and also killed a number of legionaries at that location as well. So, yes, I mean, the courier has certainly made himself an enemy of the Legion, but I just fail to really understand why the Legion rather would choose to prioritize killing one courier who really hasn't done that much overall. If I consider that the Legion has been at war with the NCR for the past 4 years on and off, and they are choosing now to divert resources to just one person who really didn't make even much of a dent in how many soldiers they have and how um he's not disrupted anything as far as their actual plans. That will happen in the future, absolutely. But right now, the logistics of it don't make much sense to me. It's like, do they go against everyone who causes problems for the NCR? It's like, will they hunt down anyone who kills any of their people? Will these same assassination squads go after um random people who kill legionaries? I highly doubt it because that would be quite a waste of these highly trained individuals. Um, so I do have some problems with it, and I don't, as much as I would like to blame the Legion for this and have it be an actual critique, I feel it's more so just gameplay, right? I feel like if I were to not side with the NCR, they would send Rangers after me and I have to deal with them. Um, I'm sure that happens, of course, but my point is that this is more so a gameplay mechanic that doesn't make any sense in the scheme of things. So I'm I will decide later on if it's worth evaluating or if it's just something I can write off as this is a game mechanic. It's meant to be a challenge whenever you are on the bad side of a particular faction and just leave it at that. I'll decide on that later. Moving on along, I'm actually going to go to the Brotherhood of Steel. Had major losses at Helios One. They sabotaged Helios One before retreating. They may have been trying to activate the weapon at Helios, and they're interested in pre-war technology, especially weapons. Cool. The Enclave, they may have had a hand in creating Archimedes. And while I'm not going to actually write this down, we can know for certain that yes, the Enclave absolutely had a hand in creating Archimedes because the Enclave controls Poseidon Company, as seen in I think Fallout 2, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong, but yes, I mean the Enclave definitely controlled Poseidon in the even pre-war world. Um, Sorry about that. And then last but not least, let's talk about the followers of the apocalypse. So the followers, they sent Ignacio to Helios One. They did extensive research on Helios. How they managed to do so, I have no idea. They infiltrated the NCR installation. And that's kind of crazy that they are able to do that. I'm surprised they're not enemies with the NCR as a result of this. But it's possible that Ignacio is the only one who has infiltrated any NCR anything. I have no idea. And they can potentially work against NCR interests. Again, I am thoroughly shocked that the NCR does not have a worse opinion of the followers at this point. Um, but perhaps we'll see more of them, and we will, of course, throughout the game, see more of them and how they interact with the NCR and see if any of that changes. Before leaving Helios 1, the courier can find one last terminal that further boggles my mind in how the NCR does not know about Archimedes. Besides seeing that the activation of the weapon caused electrical issues at Black Mountain and military bunkers at Hidden Valley, this message tells us little else that I haven't already covered. On the terminal is also a publication from Poseidon Energy called Can I Tell Him? The text is essentially about corporate espionage and sabotage, very similar to a text found at the Repcon rocket facility from the previous episode. All this text reveals is that, like many other corporations, Poseidon Energy was concerned about competition trying to steal and remanufacture its technologies. Just to the southwest of Helios One, Gabe, Boone, and Eddie are once again ambushed by Legion assassins. The courier comes very close to death at one point, but as it turns out, most problems can indeed be solved with a grenade launcher. One of the assassins tries to flee, but thankfully for him, my courier is a terrible shot. Surprisingly, the assassin comes back to finish the job with a chainsaw weapon called a Ripper. These assassins are nothing if not persistent, at least. Heading north along a dilapidated interstate, the courier and his team encounters a member of the Viper gang. I believe this is the first time we've come across this gang, so I'll add them to the list of factions, although there isn't much to learn about them in-game. Not far from that skirmish, we find another Poseidon Energy gas station. This location is called Eldorado Gas and Service. The courier can find a Blue Star bottle cap inside, as well as some other supplies and ammunition. A prospector sits outside the station while a mercenary heads south along the road. Further north along the interstate, the courier finds a man with a guitar in front of a billboard advertising Sunset Sarsaparilla. We'll return to him later in the game. Just ahead, we see a sign for Boulder City, and the courier encounters no further civilians or hostiles along the road before reaching his destination. Upon reaching Boulder City, we can find a billboard with the words, "Rangers Give 'em Hell," painted on it. We learned in the last episode that the NCR had been sending its materials from Quarry Junction to Boulder City, and we do see some industrial buildings near the train depot. I appreciate this slight nod to information from earlier. Inside the train station, the courier quickly slays a bark scorpion before spending entirely too long trying to hack into the building's terminal, and, as the rules of RPGs dictate, the longer one spends on trying to break into a container, the lesser the reward. Passing by a number of bombed-out buildings, the courier soon encounters an NCR soldier named Lieutenant Monroe.
We've got a situation with some great cons right now. The brass at McCarran has ordered me to lock down the ruins until it's been resolved. One of my patrols was on its way back from Novak when it came under fire from the Great Khans. They radioed for reinforcements, but instead of waiting for us, they chased the Khans into the ruins where they were caught in a crossfire. No deaths, but not all the squad got out. The Khans have Private Ackerman and Private Gilbert as hostages. Normally I'd turn you down since I have no idea who you are, but considering that the hostages are as good as dead when we attack, all right. I'm going to give you a chance to talk to the Great Khans. Their leader is a man named Jessup. If we hear shooting, we'll be coming in, but it'll probably be too late for you. Good luck.
Passing by NCR soldiers and Great Khans, we finally meet up with one of the Khans that was present when the courier was shot near Good Springs.
What the hell? You're that courier Benny wasted back in Good Springs. You're supposed to be dead. Yeah, about that. Don't have it. Benny stole it right before he stabbed us in the back. He's probably back at the strip by now, laughing at me. Yeah? On what? He's one of the chairmen, big shots that run the Tops Casino in New Vegas. A friend from the city contacted me with info on a big job. I should have known that the caps were too good to be true, but there was still no way I could pass up the chance. It's just a big fancy poker chip as far as I know. Don't know why anyone would make one out of platinum, though. He's a snake, that's why. He owed us the rest of the pay for the job, so maybe he didn't want to pay up. Fine. What's to negotiate? The NCR backs off, we walk out of here, nobody gets hurt. I can't believe I'm doing this. But alright, the hostages can go. The NCR had better keep their end of the deal, though. Here, a souvenir for you. It's Benny's lighter. Shove it up his ass when you catch up with him. Yeah, go on.
Don't ask how Jessup got Benny's lighter. I have no idea, and it isn't explained. It's not necessarily a problem, since Benny could have lost it in any number of believable ways, but I also can't definitively say how Jessup gained possession of it. Following the successful negotiation, we report back to Lieutenant Monroe.
I'm glad you were able to get my people freed, but there's a new problem. I just got orders to take out the Great Khans, hostages or not.
Our first option is to honor the exchange deal made with Jessup, allowing the Great Khan safe passage out of NCR territory. The second option is a complaint about how Lieutenant Monroe's orders are causing more complications. The third option is an agreement with Monroe's orders, allowing the NCR to kill the Great Khans in Boulder City. The courier has the information he needs about Benny. The man is one of the chairmen that leads the Tops Casino on the New Vegas Strip. We have our best lead on the man himself so far, given by the very men Benny betrayed, the same men that stood by and watched as the man in the checkered suit shot our courier in the head. There's no sugarcoating it. The Great Khans here did assist in the attempted murder of the courier. They did commit a crime and have so far gone unpunished. While we could say the Khans' current predicament, being pinned down by NCR soldiers with no way out, is a punishment of sorts. Indeed, much like the courier in the Good Springs Cemetery, they watch and wait as a loaded gun points directly at them. Their only saving grace is another crime they've committed, conveniently handed to the Great Khans by the incompetence of the NCR military, their hostages. But after making the deal with the courier, the Khans no longer have any leverage, and Lieutenant Monroe's orders countermand the deal a non-affiliated citizen made. There are two possible actions with significantly different outcomes. In the first possibility, the NCR soldiers kill the Great Khans. Some NCR soldiers and the Khans themselves will perish, and the courier standing with the Great Khans as a faction will be significantly lowered. We do not know much about the Khans other than that they are a tough, brutal gang that is aggressive to the NCR. We do not currently know their standing with any other factions or how killing these Khans may help or hinder the courier in dealing with other Khans in the future. The second possibility allows Jessup and the Great Khans in Boulder City to go free, escorted out of NCR territory. No NCR soldiers or Khans will die, although given what we know about the Khans, it is entirely possible the group will go on to cause discord and potentially kill innocents. Our courier is well aware of what the Great Khans are capable of, after all. I will say the choice here is perhaps the most morally gray we have come across so far. In the end, we're either breaking a negotiation or allowing known criminals to continue on with their vile ways. Also, consider that the courier is acting as an NCR diplomat in this scenario. The deal specifically calls for the NCR to peacefully escort the Khans out of their territory. By breaching the terms of the negotiation, the NCR is committing a war crime which could negatively impact any future diplomacy efforts for them. We should also consider that it is Monroe's superiors that are calling for the Khans to be killed. His higher-ups either do not understand or do not care about the courier's efforts with the Khans, and his superiors seem equally willing to sacrifice the hostages just to swat a few criminals. This video certainly has not placed the NCR in a good light, and their actions here in Boulder City tip them ever closer to the darker side of ethics and morality. If we inform Monroe of the deal made with the Khans, he says,
My hands are tied. I can't go against orders, can I?
As we should well know, I was just following orders is hardly an excuse for one's actions. If Monroe is willing to allow the courier to negotiate on the NCR's behalf, he should have been willing to accept whatever outcome of that negotiation. Though the courier holds no military rank over Monroe, the lieutenant has more so placed himself in a morally questionable position than his superiors. Since Monroe will listen to the words of the courier, it is ultimately Gabe's words that will sway the lieutenant and decide the fate of the Khans. We could tell Monroe that it's his job as an officer to make that decision, that is, if the courier is truly willing to renege on the deal he just made. However, I do want us to consider the words of the first line of text. If you have any integrity, then you'll honor the deal. Why should the courier care about Monroe's integrity or the integrity of the NCR? Why should he care to save the lives of those who tried to snuff out his own life? We know the courier may be motivated by fear and revenge, but his time in the Mojave has not been a mad dash to find the man who shot him in a quest for personal vengeance. Along the way, he's helped the town of Good Springs, and a hunted man fend off a gang of criminals. He's freed the town of Prim from invaders, and restored the rule of law to the town. He's tracked down the survivors of Nipton, setting free a couple of criminals from a life of slavery in Caesar's Legion, while also vilifying himself in the Legion's eyes. He saved an imprisoned ghoul from the peak of Black Mountain, and assisted a broken sniper in finishing his own quest for vengeance. and he's made the town of Novak safer after leading a group of ghouls away. I have already explained in previous videos why he has chosen to do these actions, and so now I must rationalize why the courier will choose to allow the cons to go free. Although he has become a more proficient fighter with time, the courier begins this game as a novice. In his past, he likely looked for the peaceful routes both figuratively and literally as he trekked across the southwestern United States. He has likely survived this long, not because he was an incredible warrior, but rather because he recognized that there is more than one path to reach a destination. The courier has also had time to learn from his experiences and his companions. With Raoul, he sees that vengeance, no matter how warranted, is not a necessity when there are other matters more important. With Boone, he sees the aftermath of one's quest for vengeance. The sniper loses everything and seems just as haunted as before murdering his wife's betrayer. Allowing the NCR to commit a war crime and kill the cons, despite them being the very men who assisted Benny in Goodsprings, will do nothing for the courier in the end. Giving into vengeance gains the courier nothing in this situation, although we can absolutely see how his standing with the Great Khans would diminish as a result. And while the courier is not an outright ally of the NCR at this point, would he allow their actions in Boulder City to stain what he tried to do? In this game, the courier has solved problems with his own actions. I do not think he would be willing to let another person or faction dirty and reverse what actions he has already taken. In other words, the courier has integrity. He does what he says he will do, and points out to Monroe that if the lieutenant has integrity, then he should allow his negotiator to honor the negotiation. To do otherwise would not only betray the cons and the deal made, but the courier's very words and actions. I know that was a long tangent, but as I stated from the beginning of this series, I intend to qualify and evaluate the courier's actions to give the most reasonable and character-driven account I can muster. There were many factors to consider, from individual characters to factions themselves, and I hope I have done a decent job in explaining the courier's rationale. If you feel I didn't or have other thoughts, please let me know in the comments.
You're right. The Great Khans are free to go.
As we can see, the Great Khans appear to appreciate our efforts in Boulder City and will be more amenable to our courier in the future. Stepping into the Big Horn Saloon, we meet the owner named Ike.
A customer. Not many people come into Boulder City these days. Most of the town is rubble, destroyed during the Battle of Hoover Dam. And the only other thing around here is the concrete mixing yard. The NCR has been constructing bunkers up and down the river. From what I've heard, it's a little late for that. Travelers over at the 188, just up the road, said that the Legion has overrun a couple of towns to the south. Most of the limestone comes from Quarry Junction out west, but I hear some Deathclaws overran the quarry. With no work to be had, all the workers around here have wandered off. I'm the only one left in town. Come back real soon.
Just outside the saloon, we find a young soldier standing in front of a war memorial.
You here to pay your respects too? It commemorates the Battle of Hoover Dam. The Rangers lured the best of Caesar's Legion into Boulder City, then blew the whole town up. The NCR still lost a bunch of troops in the fighting, though. My older brother sacrificed himself, so they could evacuate some of the wounded. Don't worry about it. Camp McCarran, but I'm on leave at the moment, heading back to California to see my folks. I'm supposed to join up with a caravan that's heading that way up at the 188. They're not due to arrive for a while yet. Bye.
The back of the memorial lists the names of the fallen. I will not read them, but I will read the front of the memorial, which states, "On this spot in the year 2277, Rangers and soldiers of the New California Republic turned back the forces of Caesar's Legion during the Battle of Hoover Dam. Over 100 men and women gave their lives on Nevada soil to defend local civilians and the principles of the Republic. May this humble stone be an enduring memorial to their valor and sacrifice." While very pretty words, I am more interested in the date of 2277. We know the first Battle of Hoover Dam took place 4 years prior to the start of this game, which means the current year should be 2281. While that date is all well and good, our courier is suddenly ambushed from behind.
Fancy meeting you here, friend.
Unfortunately, my game decided to glitch for a moment during my conversation with Victor. When the courier asks, "How did you get here?" Victor says, "Just rolling along on my spurs. Looks like I just might make it to New Vegas after all."
Yep. Guess it's just down to you and Fancy Pants. I wouldn't worry about him. He looks all hat and no cattle, if you ask me. Fancy Pants? No, I ain't seen hide nor hair of him since the tussle in Good Springs. I'm sure he ran back to the soft living of New Vegas, though. Now, it ain't my fault that Dorothy and the Tin Man happen to be on the same yellow-striped road, is it? Look me up when you get to New Vegas. I'll buy the first round.
A couple of things Victor reveals. Though we already suspected the robot was following the courier, since it saw what the courier was able to accomplish with the cons in Boulder City, we can affirm that yes, Victor has been following the courier across the Mojave. We also now know that Victor knows exactly who Benny is, since he knows where the man is headed. These words are a direct contradiction to what the robot initially told the courier, that it did not know where the courier's attackers were headed. I do not think for a second that this contradiction is an accident or a narrative problem. It simply shows that Victor is manipulative, omits useful information, and is potentially a bad liar. And, once more, we are unable to address Victor's role in hiring the courier in the first place. After finishing his business in Boulder City, Gabe heads up the road to the 188 trading post. The courier meets a young woman named Michelle. Due to yet another glitch in audio, I'll paraphrase the conversation. Michelle works with her father, Samuel, at the 188 Slop and Shop, which has to be about the worst case of rhyme I have ever encountered in my life. She works the day shift and her father works nights. She and Samuel have been at the 188 for about a month, after leaving the town of Prim after the powder ganger breakout. They set up at the 188 due to increased traffic to and from New Vegas, but she is also worried about Legion raids from the south. She also seems to be somewhat informed, but is also unsure if the Legion attacked the town of Nelson or Novak. Next, we speak with Michelle's father, Samuel, and thankfully the audio is fine this time.
Welcome to the 188 Slop and Shop. Like our slogan says, it's better than nothing. Samuel Kerr at your service. Me and my daughter Michelle run this fine establishment. We came here from Prim about a month past. Doesn't look like much, but it's one hell of a location. Michelle and I ran a little shop in Prim till a prison break north of town spoiled it for everyone. Goddamn convicts just about shut down I-15. When traffic dried up, we took to our heels to find us some customers. I'm not one to sit around waiting to get saved, and Michelle ain't neither. When 15 shut down, 95 became the route NCR citizens used to get to the Strip, or limp back home, after the Strip's drained them of caps. We get 'em coming and going. Coming, the suckers flush with caps they saved to gamble on the Strip. And going, the same folks, but now they're losers who'll trade you the shirt off their backs so they don't starve before they make it back home. Add in the troopers marching back and forth from McCarran and the Dam, and well, let's just say we don't miss Prim.
After our conversation with Samuel Kerr, I have my courier speak with Boone.
What is it? I was in a lot of places with First Recon. I don't really remember. That part of my life's over now, and so is this discussion. If you want, it's not really my thing. What do you want to know? Give me a rifle and a clear line of sight, and I'll start picking them off before they've even seen me. Didn't have much hand-to-hand training, so our chances are better if you keep the enemy out of my face. I'm trained as a spotter, too. If you're looking through a scope, I could find your targets for you. Sure. No. Sure. Carla's dead. That's all you need to know.
As usual, Boone has very little to say, although we can see he is clearly evasive about questions regarding Bitter Springs. I have my courier part ways with the sniper, who intends to return to Novak until called on again. Now that I'm down one companion, maybe I can find another somewhere nearby.
See you around.
Oh look, there's one.
Hey. No offense, but you look like you've traveled a long way down some bad roads. Where'd you come from? Huh. Well, in that case, I take it back. You look pretty good, given the circumstances. Well, welcome then. I'm Veronica. I live in a hole in the ground. Well, a bunker, if you want to get technical. I think it sounds more interesting my way. But I'm not there much anymore. I'm usually out here picking up food and supplies for my family, whatever they need. Yeah, I'm not worried. They can handle themselves. But somebody has to get the groceries, know what I mean? And actually these days, I think they'd rather have me out here anyway. But that's a whole other story. So listen, can I ask you something on the level? I had a run-in with this group calling themselves the Brotherhood of Steel. Pretty strange bunch. Do you know anything about them? Well, that shouldn't be a problem for me. I can't afford anything like that. Hey, so where are you headed anyway? Ooh, very exciting. Gonna strike it rich, huh? I'll be honest. You're the first person I've run across out here that looks like he can really handle himself. There are places I've never been to that'd be too dangerous for just me. What do you think? Maybe we could travel together. Help each other out. Good. That's the look I was going for. Trust me on this one, though. You'll be glad you brought me along. If I turn out to be a burden, we can part ways at any time. No hard feelings. Oh, nowhere in particular, really. Just hoping to see more of the world. Looking for a fresh perspective. I want to see how different groups have adapted to survive in the Mojave. See if there's something I can learn from. Like I said, they can handle themselves. And I'm not the only one getting supplies for them. It's a big family. Now you're talking. One thing you should know first, though. I ask you about the Brotherhood because I'm one of them. I know, but I had to know how you react when I told you. We have made a lot of enemies. You still okay bringing me along? Sure, just don't ever ask me if your outfit makes you look fat. Well, thanks for taking a chance on a naive young girl from California with stars in her eyes and a pneumatic gauntlet on her hand. Let's hit the road, huh?
At long last, we finally meet someone from the Brotherhood of Steel. After spending much of the game only hearing about them secondhand, Veronica gives us our first glimpse of the organization as it is in the Mojave Wasteland. Across a bridge, we meet an unnamed arms merchant.
You a merc? 'Cause you don't look like a prospector. Hell yes, sir. Well, not officially. Not anymore. They mustered me out a year ago. Administrative discharge. Staff Sergeant, 3rd Platoon Bravo Company. I was at the dam when the Legion hit us 3 years back. That was a shitstorm, and don't let anybody tell you different. The brass tried to play it down, but most of them were back at McCarran. I didn't. My CO ordered me to flog a couple deserters, and I told him to eat shit. So they kicked me out for insubordination. Those kids didn't desert. They just got liquored up on the strip and missed roll call. I don't know what else the brass expects. Half these kids don't get more than 2 weeks of training before they ship them out here. Going home didn't feel right. Not with those savages camped on the other side of the river sharpening their knives. And I still get to see my old platoon when they pass through here. Make sure the new CO is treating them right, and sneak them extra ammo. Anyway, I was always complaining about the standard issue gear. The new kids don't even get body armor. Can you believe that? So I hooked up with a couple other vets. Bribed a gunrunner. Now we're supplying grunts, mercs, and anybody else on our side. We don't make much, but at least we're saving lives. Vegas is bleeding us dry. We're tossing caps at 100 different problems, while Caesar bides his time and lets us wear ourselves out. This war is gonna bankrupt the NCR unless we finish off the Legion fast and dirty. We shouldn't be perched up at the dam. We ought to be crossing the Colorado and sticking a boot up Caesar's ass. Sure, no problem.
We have already seen multiple soldiers and officers complain about how the NCR is conducting its war in the Mojave, but it is interesting to see a discharged veteran's account as well. While it's safe to say the merchant is bitter about the NCR's decisions and the unreasonable cruelty it can inflict on its own soldiers, she is also doing what she can to help the colleagues she left behind. Below the 188 overpass, the courier meets a man named Alexander.
Is there some reason I should be talking to you? Like you have a clue what that even means. The gunrunners have been putting rapid-fire death dealing in the hands of anyone who needed to defend himself for over a century. We're the NCR's #1 supplier of weapons and ammunition. You might call us an unofficial branch of the Army. I'm a salesman. I swing through McCarran and the Dam once a week or so to take orders. But lately, I spend most of my time in this piss heap. Ever since the 15 shut down, all caravans come through here, right to me. I check the stock and direct deliveries onward to meet orders. Sure, it stinks to hang out here, but it won't be forever. Plus, I can afford a monthly bender on the Strip and still build up my nest egg. Not much to tell. A Brahmin or two loaded up with weapons, and a whole mess of well-armed guards to make sure it ends up where it's supposed to. One nifty bit, though. The gun cases are rigged to explode, so trying to loot one of our caravans doesn't do much good. And that's how the NCR stays equipped. The only thing we don't bring in is energy weapons. We used to, but every caravan carrying them was getting ambushed and wiped out by someone sophisticated enough to know which was which. We think it was the Brotherhood of Steel. Those crazies always go hard for energy weapons. But the NCR would rather pretend they killed all of them. Bye.
Nearby, Gabe can also meet the first child of the game. He is simply called the Forecaster.
Hi, mister. I hope you're doing fine today. I don't have a mama or papa anymore. I see them sometimes when I take off my medicine, but they can't stay. I'm pretty used to being on my own. Oh, I don't sell things, mister. I sell thoughts. I can take off my medicine and do some thinking. People say it's real interesting. I don't know, because I never hear it. Some people say that it's a gift. Other people say it's the kind of thinking anyone could do if they watched more than they talked. I don't know which is true. I see a lot. I think a lot. There's a lot to hear through the 188, too. That maybe accounts for the thinking. This thing on my head is headache medicine. It works real good, except I can't think when it's on. Really think, I mean. Great. What do you want me to think about? I can think about you, here, or everywhere. What do you want? Let me take off my medicine. Bull and bear over the dam, at each other's throats. But a light from Vegas? Balls spinning on the wheel, more than two at the table, placing bets. All lose in different ways. A dam of corpses, towns of corpses, scattered across the sand. But whose? In what shares? Even the dealer doesn't know. Forecast, a rain of blood will flood the desert and not purify it. Blah. Thinking about everywhere always makes me feel a little sick. Oh, I don't know anything, mister. I just think it. And then I don't. See you.
Despite how cryptic and ambiguous much of what the Forecaster says, we will come to see that much of what he predicts is true. While I may actually come back to his predictions and analyze them, much of what he predicts will be spoilers for now, and I'd rather not tackle them quite yet. Gabe, Eddie, and Veronica head toward the setting sun. Black Mountain looms to the west, but as we turn north along the 95, we can see the Lucky 38 rising above the casinos of New Vegas. Following along a row of skeletal power poles, their lines dangling uselessly, we come across the first of a few billboards advertising the casinos of New Vegas. The first belongs to the Atomic Wrangler. A cowboy rides a bucking atom. This casino is supposedly the West's finest watering hole, but we also see that someone has painted red graffiti on the sign saying "Fuck NCR." Nearby on a stone wall, someone painted more words which read, "The sun is killing me," a rather morose phrase. Heading beneath an overpass, we see an advertisement for the Van Graff's Silver Rush, a weapons dealer. Passing under another bridge, the courier arrives at the Grab and Gulp rest stop. Gabe speaks with a man named Fitz.
Welcome to the Grub and Gulp. Just a little rest stop that me and my good friend Lupe set up. Last stop on your way into New Vegas, first stop on your way out. That's what I say. Sure, fire away. I think there are a few places, but I've heard that the gun runners sell the best. Dr. Usanagi runs a medical clinic up the road.
In the next stall, we meet Fitz's friend, a woman named Lupe.
You need water? I got water. Clean and fresh. Straight from Lake Mead. If you're low on caps, I've also got slightly irradiated wasteland water. A little fallout never killed anybody. The NCR fixed up the pipe network pretty good, and water merchants like me are allowed to have some of it to sell. If we have a water license, of course. Still, it beats the inconvenience of having to trek all the way to the lake to resupply. There's a few independent ones like me, but it's mostly the big trading outfits that deal in water, like the Crimson Caravan Company. Shoot. They won't just let anybody into the Strip, but you should be able to have a good time in Freeside itself. Just, keep a close eye on your caps. They're a bunch of crazies hopped up on all kind of drugs. Apparently, they're using one of the old vaults as a hideout. The army should really get in there and wipe them all out, but I guess they've got more than enough trouble to deal with right now. Their main base is right over there by the old airport. It's called Camp McCarran now. Some people like to paint them all as a bunch of bullies. Me? I'm glad they're around. They do what they can to keep things safe and orderly.
Just beyond the Grab and Gulp, we see another billboard, this time advertising for the Lucky 38. Beyond that, we see two billboards, one for the Tops and the other for Gamora. Heading further north, we walk alongside towering and broken causeways, passing a handful of NCR soldiers along the way. The neon lights of New Vegas illuminate the darkness as the courier approaches the city. Outside the walls of the city, Gabe comes across the headquarters of the Gunrunners. Outside the shopping kiosk, he meets a man named Isaac.
I don't handle buying and selling for the Gunrunners. Talk to the robot in the kiosk near our factory. For around 5 years now, I handle the supply end of things, raw materials and stuff. Makers of the finest high-grade weapons and ammunition in the wasteland. You ever get your hands on a piece of sweet, deadly hardware, there's a good chance that it came from one of our factories. None whatsoever. Everything inside the fence is off limits, and the guards have strict orders to shoot to kill. A lot of our high-end weaponry comes from pre-war military schematics. If our competition got a hold of them, it'd be bad for business. Out here, we don't have bosses. Me, the gunsmiths, and the guards all know what we're supposed to be doing. Working for the Gunrunners is a sweet job. None of us would dare screw it up.
In the kiosk itself, we meet a Vendortron. I won't share the dialogue since it's rather dry, and the only information we learn from the robot is that the Gunrunners have been in operation since 2155. Walking around the eastern walls of New Vegas, we come to two distinct gates heading into the suburb of Freeside. The courier also stumbles upon the Crimson Caravan Company's base of operations before seeing the gleaming lights of the Freeside Monument. It will be outside Freeside's northern gate that I'll be stopping my coverage for this video, since heading beyond feels like the start of a new chapter that really deserves its own focus. For now, let's do our final character evaluations for this episode before wrapping up. Let's start with some of our NCR people. Lieutenant Monroe, we encounter him in Boulder City, and he's the one who asks us to deal with the Great Khans, or not really asks, he just says that something's going on with them and we can offer to. He's in charge of handling the hostage incident with the Khans in Boulder City. He's willing to allow the courier to help to save his soldiers, and he questions and can go against his own orders. I don't really have any problems with Monroe. Doesn't have that many lines of dialogue to cause himself any issues. And that's fine. The moral conflict that he has with his countermanded orders after allowing the courier to do negotiations, I've already talked about enough. Ike, he is the owner of the Bighorn Saloon in Boulder City. He is well informed, and he's also the only resident of Boulder City. I that leads me to question how he's even getting business. Although since there are a number of NCR soldiers there and Boulder City is very close to Hoover Dam, perhaps he sees the soldiers mainly or like the occasional traveler. Um, I still find it very odd that he would be well informed. We just don't have enough information really to say how he is able to know things about the outside world if he is like his bar is completely dead when we enter, and we don't really know that the NCR soldiers are there most of the time. It's been 4 years since Boulder City was destroyed, and I find it really weird that there are pretty much no other residents at this point after 4 years. I understand it's very close to the front lines, but so are some of the other towns, frankly. So it's just a little weird to me that he's the only resident of Boulder City. And that's more of a critique of the location and setting than it is of his character. But the problems with the location cause problems for his character. Private Kowalski, he is the soldier we meet in Boulder City. He sounds like he should be from Monsters Inc. Um, and he's respectful. He lost his older brother. He's the one who's standing in front of the memorial there. He is normally stationed at Camp McCarran. He is currently on leave and headed back to California to see his parents, and he will travel there via caravan. I don't have any problems with Kowalski. He's fine. Moving on along, let's go look at the great cons. We only made one so far who is named Jessup. He was present when the courier was shot. He was betrayed by Benny. Greedy, desperate for money, doesn't know anything about the chip, wasn't fully paid by Benny, maybe willing to negotiate, and somehow has Benny's lighter. Um, I don't really have any problems with Jessup. I mean, we could conceivably say that there's a problem with the lighter, but that's just because we don't know what happened, and it's not unreasonable that it couldn't happen. Just because we didn't see it happen on screen doesn't mean that it was impossible, basically. Um, I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. Um, the Mojave, these are again just random people that we've encountered as we've trekked across the Mojave. Michelle Kerr, she works at the 188 Slop and Shop. Her dad, Samuel, originally from Prim, left Prim after the Powder Ganger breakout, has been at the 188 about a month and is ready to leave if the Legion draws near. Samuel Kerr, Michelle's father, pretty much a lot of the same things as Michelle. They're almost exactly the same. He is self-motivated. He thinks little of tourists. He seems to think that they're stupid for going to or from Vegas, and then thinks the 188 is better for business. I don't really have any problems with either of these characters. They don't say anything contradictory, and the reason why they're at the 188 makes sense due to their backgrounds. The 188 arms merchant, that's the unnamed woman we talked to by the broken down truck. She's a discharged NCR soldier. She's out of the NCR Army for a year, was a staff sergeant in part of third platoon, oh my gosh, I cannot say that word. 3rd Platoon Bravo Company. Thank you. Veteran of Hoover Dam, not quite right on the time of battle. She says it was 3 years ago when it was actually 4. So yeah, doesn't like NCR Army senior staff. Refused to flog fellow soldiers, which tells us a little bit about the NCR as well. Realistic about NCR ineffective training. Looks out for her former colleagues, even though she's no longer part of the NCR. Uses context to bolster the NCR's chances. And I really think that's interesting that there's like a network of unaffiliated or previous NCR people that are still trying to help the NCR in some way, even though the Republic may not value them anymore. She blames Vegas for the lack of army funding. She knows Caesar is using the strategy of attrition. He is letting the NCR wear itself down and make itself bankrupt, basically. I think they call that the Fabian strategy or something like that. Thinks the NCR should be more aggressive and decisive. Alexander. It's a lot of minor characters. And really, as you can see, all of them have so few traits that they don't have time for anything bad to happen to them, basically, or to have their scores lowered. Alexander is the gunrunner salesman we meet beneath the 188. He spends most of his time at the 188, but does travel between Camp McCarran and the dam. He is wealthy. He wastes his money at Vegas. The forecaster, I don't know why I didn't say that he is a child. I mean, just because he's an orphan could be anything. Or an adult even. Orphan sees things when he takes off his helmet, whatever you want to call that thing, the visor, helmet, whatever. He's capable. He sells thoughts. He's unsure of the source of what he sees. He hears many rumors at the 188. Surprise, surprise. I mean, that makes sense. And he gives a prophecy of doom regarding the Mojave. This is his current standing. I will say I don't have any problems with the forecaster. And really, I personally don't care for characters that are seers or prophets because we have to take these characters in the context that they are in a story and their abilities are based on the context of the writers knowing what's going to happen. So that's all nice, but it's just like you can really see the writer's hand in these characters 99% of the time because it's just like, well, of course, because you know that it's going to happen. And all these little things, we may not know exactly all of the things that the forecaster is saying because it's very ambiguous and the usual prophetic, jargon. But at the same time, we also can see that the forecaster is correct. As if you have played the game, you can see a lot of the little things he says are things that will happen. And I'll probably go back to him at some point and ask for things that are going on at the smaller level, not just all across the Mojave. Fitz, friends with Lupe, runs the Grab and Gulp with Lupe, recommends the Gunrunners, and recommends Dr. Usanagi's medical clinic. So cool. Lupe, she is a water merchant. She's dismissive of selling irradiated water, gets fresh water from Lake Mead, reveals not everyone is allowed in the strip, warns about thievery and Freeside, wishes the NCR would deal with the fiends, and likes the order the NCR brings. I do find it incredible that we understand this is the apocalypse and water is a highly valuable resource. Um, I'm honestly surprised that the NCR that controls the water for the most part even allows anyone to sell it and they don't just have a monopoly on it because if they don't have access to fresh water, then they're pretty much doomed. Same goes for the Legion. I feel like water is the most precious resource, especially in a desert environment. Um, Isaac works for the Gunrunners for 5 years. He's a supplier for the Gunrunners and has a high opinion of his employer. That's basically all we get from him, as well as some history about the Gunrunners that I'll talk about in a little bit. Let's go to the companions. I don't really learn too much about our companions, at least Boone. Veronica is another story. Boone, he was evasive when asked about Bitter Springs, which we'll see more about later, and prefers not to be parted from his beret. Cool. Veronica Santangelo. She is the Brotherhood of Steel initiate that we find at the 188 trading post. She is perceptive. She lives in a bunker. She's eccentric, gets food and supplies for her family, may not be on good terms with her family, asks the courier about the Brotherhood of Steel, thinks the courier can take care of himself, suggests that they travel together for safety, wants to explore, wants to be underestimated, looking for new ideas and perspectives, member of the Brotherhood of Steel, cautious, duplicitous, might be from California because she says she's a girl from California with stars in her eyes or something like that. And she uses a power fist as a weapon, which we'll see her use to great effect later. It's quite entertaining to watch her punch something to death, which is kind of a crazy thing to say on a YouTube channel, but it's just very interesting once you actually see it. The rigged game is where I want to go next. So the courier, I actually did say that he does do what he says. The reason I include that is because we've seen him do that pretty much the entire game. And while you could argue it or discuss it, I mean, he doesn't have to do anything that the quests tell him to do or whatever. But at that point, we wouldn't even really be playing the game or this main story. We would just go around doing random things, and that's not typically how narratives operate. So yeah, I feel like it is safe to say that he is a man of action. He's does what he says. Benny, he betrayed and abandoned the Great Khans in Boulder City. He is one of the chairmen that runs the Tops Casino in New Vegas. He no longer has his lighter, and he didn't fully pay the Great Khans. Do I have anybody else? Yes, Victor, our robot friend, quote unquote. He reappears in Boulder City. He states he is on his way to New Vegas. saw the courier meet with the Great Khans, did see Benny in Good Springs, knows that Benny went to New Vegas. He diverts questions. He lied about not knowing where the attackers were headed. He is manipulative, and he purposely omits information. I do also want to point out that he states that he is on his way to New Vegas, and the other times that we've seen him, whether it would be in Novak, I think it was in Novak, yes, we see that he says that he doesn't know why he's out in Novak. I just had a hunch that I should come this way. Um, so again, that's just omitting information, and we don't really know exactly what Victor is trying to do or get out of this. Is he trying to protect the courier? If so, he's done a piss poor job of it, considering how many times the courier has almost died at the hands of the Legion. Um, and he's been nowhere to be seen. Um, I don't, obviously, I as a person don't like Victor because I feel he's very manipulative. He does omit information. Doesn't he says he's helping, but really, what purpose does he really have? Who is he actually working for, and for what reasons did he actually even save the courier in the first place? Um, we'll get into that later. Last, let's look at the factions. The NCR gained quite a few traits this time, and most of them are not very good. That are not good for it, rather. I definitely want to do a deep analysis of the NCR later because they do a lot of shady shit in this episode. We know that they are willing to commit war crimes because they're willing to break a negotiation that explicitly allowed their own soldiers to live, basically. We know that they're willing to sacrifice lives because they were willing to still attack the Great Khans, regardless if it killed the hostages or not, which is crazy. They practice flogging. If you don't know what flogging is, it's basically beating the shit out of somebody for any perceived reason. Um, Especially for people that are not doing what they're supposed to do in the military, or they do not illegal things even necessarily, just like the trade merchant at the 188 said. I mean, she was supposed to flog two soldiers because they were late for a roll call. I mean, that's quite a severe punishment, I feel like, and it's not supposed to be legal anymore, especially in the United States Army for sure. Um, the recruits and conscripts are poorly trained. The war may lead to the bankruptcy of the NCR. They fix the water supply lines. They allow merchants to sell water. They're having issues with the Fiends, and their main base is McCarran in the Mojave. I don't know if I said that one before. Probably not. No. So, a lot of not great stuff regarding the NCR. Again, I do find it interesting that the NCR pretty much holds the monopoly on controlling water, but then they also allow companies like the Crimson Caravan and other independent water sellers to make a profit off of it. I understand that they also make their cut, but at the same time, the NCR is at war with the Legion, and they're right across the river. Um, it seems kind of weird considering that water is probably even a more valuable resource than electricity happens to be in the Mojave. Considering it's a desert, considering it's a wasteland and a post-apocalyptic environment. And it's fresh water too, it's not irradiated. Um, it's quite crazy that they wouldn't have nearly the stranglehold on water that you think that they should, considering that if they don't have complete control of the water supply, then they also will be unable to wage war or even survive in the Mojave for very long. And really, they could even use their monopoly on the water supply against the Legion by ensuring that they don't have access to Lake Mead or whatever. So I feel like water is a resource. It's very important, but they also kind of undersell it in this game a little bit as being a resource that is necessary for war to continue in the Mojave. Caesar's Legion. It's waging a war of attrition. Um, Wars of attrition basically are wearing down an opponent until they collapse and can no longer wage war. or they surrender. World War I is an example of a war of attrition. And there are, of course, many, many other wars that have been fought this way, even back in the times of the Roman Republic, with the Second Punic War. So, Caesar's Legion, why are they waging a war of attrition? Why might they do so? In the past, it's because it's not that they can't defeat another faction militarily. It's that they might be aware of their resources and or the lack thereof, and also perhaps their abilities in a certain situation or environment. Um, they did try to take Hoover Dam before, and we'll learn more about that later. So it's like, why has Caesar himself decided to wage this war of attrition on the NCR rather than make more aggressive pushes towards things? And we've only recently heard of the Legion doing anything. I mean, they burned the town of Nipton, which was pretty much unaffiliated with the NCR. Um, they recently took the town of Nelson, which we don't know if it was independent or not. Um, and we do know some other thing. We will know some other things too. Um, for how the Legion has access to the west side of the river rather than the east. Um, and we haven't really discovered all those things yet, and I'll talk more about it later and how they've been waging this war of attrition and depleting the NCR soldiers and resources over time. And why they might even be doing so, why that is their best strategy. The Powder Gangers, even though we haven't seen them for quite a while, they have only been active around a month. We learned that from two of the people at the 188. Crimson Caravan, they deal heavily in selling water. The Jackals. Oh, wait. No, I haven't seen them this episode. I'm thinking about the Vipers, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The Brotherhood of Steel, they're based in a bunker. They have many enemies, and they deploy incognito members into the Mojave. The Vipers, they're a bandit gang raider. Oh my gosh, bandit raider gang. The Gunrunners, they've been operating over a century since 2155. They deal in ballistic weaponry, mostly the NCR's biggest supplier for weaponry and ammunition. They sabotage their own caravans to prevent theft. They do not deal in energy weapons because their caravans kept getting raided by some unknown faction, but most likely the Brotherhood of Steel. Closely guards its trade secrets and has little oversight over its employees in the Mojave, which is honestly kind of surprising. And then lastly, we have the Fiends. We haven't met any of the Fiends yet, but we will in the very near future because they are on the west side of New Vegas. They are a gang of chem addicts. They're using a vault as a base, and they are causing problems in New Vegas. And as we will come to see, they are causing major problems for the NCR in general. Despite having a lot less video than I usually have to cover, it seems I had an awful lot to discuss. To review, I critiqued the mission that Lucky Old Sun set at the HELIOS One power plant. I also examined and predicted the most in-character choice the courier can make and assigned the fates of the great Khans at Boulder City. In the next episode, the courier travels beyond the gates of Freeside to experience New Vegas for himself. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give a like or comment. If you've stuck around through my other videos, feel free to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss more on the courier's adventures in New Vegas. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.